not that keen on the industry news being part of our broadcast, and on the other hand, I thought having it split into separate sections will make it easier for everyone to watch on playback if you go to YouTube and indeed watch all that we have to offer. As you know, sometimes it's very difficult for people to tune in if they are living in the other part of the world. We've had many of our American community members sometimes queuing up in the middle of the night in order to get in and do some strikes and some activities in Gambit and the Crucible, and I felt for them because, you know, waiting all night long until about 5 in the morning in order to get in is an arduous exercise, and I want to show my utmost respect and appreciation towards everyone who was doing this. We'll try to make this kind of globally friendly. So if, for instance, some of our US friends wanted to come in on the gameplay, what we'll do is we'll arrange a community session times which are suitable for them, because I think it really is quite tricky and unworkable if you are to be, first of all, waiting all night to get in, and then secondly, after finishing the session, going to work. I think it's not something that I personally would prefer. But anyway, hats off to everyone who was participating. I'm very grateful, and as you know, we have quite a large community of Destiny gamers here on the channel. I'm hoping that others who are indeed into Assassin's Creed, The Division, PUBG, Elder Scrolls, Gears of War and all the other nice games will also join us, irrespective of their own personal game preference. So in addition to daily news bulletins, we'll have game reviews. It's something we've done in the past, but today, and as from today, we'll be delivering this in a separate slot, which will be labelled game reviews, that include all the niceties and freebies given every single weekend, as well as some demos, some new games, and literally everything or anything that is of interest out there coming to our desk. We'll have regular reviews of free days. If you are a member of Microsoft Xbox community, you will know that the free days are delivered every single week, and we'll have a very good rundown on all that is on offer. Maybe sometimes we get a bit of that gameplay as well, we'll have to see, but really the introduction will be specifically to do with us telling everyone what these games are about, and indeed whether they're worth of our time and effort. Most of the times, I can certainly tell you, they really are, and I enjoyed quite a great number during the last year of those games offered through free play. Some of those games I already had previously, and there were a few that I included in the Xbox Game Pass pack. I think always good to be doing a reminder, a refresher, irrespective of the fact, and there were quite a few games that I really enjoyed trying. I'll give you one example, Borderlands 3 for instance. I find it to be absolutely exhilarating. I truly loved it, and made me almost buy the game straight away, and it was on the trail of that freebie, albeit I didn't really buy it immediately because the price was within the range of £40, and I still wait for the game to drop somewhat price wise, but nevertheless it was offered on I think 35% discount during the same weekend. So it's really an ideal way, first of all, of finding out what the game's like. You can find out whether you like it, whether you enjoy it, and I have to tell you, I really love Borderlands 3. It is a wonderful game, and it has so many different snippets of funny dialogue, many lovable rogue characters, and it seems to be a game that is never ending, really extremely busy, with lots of different tasks and activities for everyone to complete. So definitely one of those that kind of drew my attention, and I certainly enjoyed playing it. The format of 3 days is specifically to introduce people to some of the most popular, most loved games. If, for instance, they were having a difficulty in purchasing them early, and it is in line with what we get on Game Pass and PS Now services, where we can just pay one flat subscription fee per month and then enjoy all the other games that are offered, 1,000 in total to platforms combined, and I've got to tell you, I thoroughly enjoyed my time there. I got introduced to lots of games that previously I would have not chosen, and there were many nice surprises on offer as well. So it is obviously a very good idea to be giving a good early introduction which I believe is going to be always on Thursday, and we'll have a good look at what is there on offer. In addition to that, we'll be reviewing some most recent betas and demos, like the one we are doing tonight on Marvel Avengers. We'll have some selected streams as well. So as you know, we have been completing most of the times lengthy Destiny 1 and 2 streams. Our community's been built around those two Bungie masterpieces. Destiny 2 is probably one of the biggest games ever created. It is certainly one of those that provides something for everyone, albeit in a very, very diverse format. So if you are a PvP hardcore gamer, you can enter the Crucible, where you will, irrespective of your game experience, toy against other gamers who are into the PvP. If you like a combination of PvP and PvE, which is basically person against the person and person against the environment, you can walk into the Gambit and you'll have plenty of fun. The Drifter in Destiny 2 is the character who gives you tokens and bounties, and then you can work on some pinnacle weapons, and the activity is very, very enjoyable. If you like open world, you can just go to different planets and then enjoy Escalation Protocol, which is probably one of my favorite activities in the Destiny universe altogether. Very, very hectic. You require up to 9 players who frequently are randomly selected in there. If you want to be winning the entire match, which is I think 6 or 7 or 8 tier long, so you have different rounds within the match, and some of the bosses are very difficult, and you have many enemies attacking at all times. You need to know exactly what to do. You need to do it together in a team, but definitely very, very hectic, very enjoyable activity. And then of course you have campaigns, you have the story missions, you can have quests for the pinnacle weapons, you can do patrols, you can do adventures. Really, the list just goes on, and as we've heard, Destiny 2 universe has become somewhat too vast, and therefore the developer is going to be sending some of the content into the vault. Some of it really is the content that people have not played as much, and I'm personally in two minds about this, because if you think about it, when you purchase a physical product, you actually purchase the whole game, and abbreviating it, producing the game in some abridged format at a later stage is certainly not the kind of system that I personally would like to see. And we'll have to wait and see, first of all, to get the content that will be sent to the vault. They have talked about the planets and some adventures and some strikes, but I really want to see what happens in November once they proceed, because it is likely that Bungie will face a huge amount of dissent, lots of dissatisfaction coming from our regulars. People do like revisiting and going to the same places for a period of time, and if there's one thing which is really beautiful in Destiny universe is that it's incredibly vast, and you just forget about certain parts of the game as you carry on, and then you want to revisit, which in fact is a concept that has been present and visible in some other open world games, most notably Fallout 76. We have The Elder Scrolls Online, of course, Red Dead Redemption Online, and many other games, because the idea was to make that one big world attractive to a certain type of gamer who then is always revisiting, coming back, engaging with his friends, and trying out different opportunities and his luck out there in that deadly world where they need to survive until the end. And so yeah, talking about streams, we're not going to be streaming just Destiny here. Destiny has been very present right from the beginning, and the vast majority of our channel followers and community members are attached to this wonderful looter shooter. I could say also this wonderful Bungie's masterpiece. But we are going to be diversifying and introducing lots of other games. As you know, the actual gaming world is thriving, and certainly during lockdown many more people subscribe to the online streaming services, and the exponential rise of the membership has been present on all platforms, and certainly I think we'll see a lot more of those people who were not able to access, for instance, Microsoft services until now, after the xCloud is introduced. I believe that will be later in the year, after November the 22nd, and therefore they'll be able to access the same services on their mobile phones, on Android platform, on Android tablets, and they will just need very fast internet connection as well as their Bluetooth connectivity enabled controller. So I think there's a lot to look forward to, and therefore we are going to be perhaps a bit more in sync with all of those new releases and new things on offer. Coming back to that, I can certainly tell you that Xbox Game Pass is definitely the way to go. They are similar to Netflix in terms of the system that they have. Lots of games are introduced to the Game Pass, and then after a while they are being basically taken up the server. So you have a time-limited period through which you can enjoy these games. There isn't a better time to try them if you're on a subscription, and if you love those games so much and you finish them, you can obviously purchase them on a greatly discounted price. So it's a very, very good way of doing it. In fact, I bought quite a lot of games since I've been using those services because I tried them and then I discovered something that was wonderful. Gave you the example of Borderlands 3 early on, and I think most significantly that applies to indie games and those that get hardly any credibility or exposure due to the lack of marketing budgets. And amongst those there are some absolutely fantastic gems, some true jewels of video game industry, and definitely worth a look. And what better way to do it than by following the news overall, you know, like uploads on Xbox and PlayStation. And for instance, the way I do it is I use PC World, their YouTube channel, as well as the one run by Xbox, and you get all the trailers and all the news and developer diaries onto those, and therefore you can be introduced. Or you can, for instance, spot a game that looks very interesting that you never heard of, and you jot it down in your notebook, and then once you see it emerging on PS Now, Xbox Game Pass, you can just stroll in, have a look, enjoy the characters, get entertained by the gameplay, and decide whether this game is for you. I told in my earlier broadcast that we've had a bonanza of demos in July. 75 demos were offered through a particular event offered on Xbox, and I downloaded all of them, played already about 25. The vast majority were thoroughly enjoyable and found some of those games to be very exciting. In fact, I did recommend, let me see, a game earlier on called 9 Monkeys of Shaolin, which is a mixture of RPG, platformer, kind of looter shooter, fighting game, all sorts, but primarily this is an RPG with some fighting that's based on the use of swords, and it seemed like really, really good. I really enjoyed the gameplay. It had a very, very good story. It was beautifully told, very easy to navigate, and certainly a game that I'm having on the top of my list once it comes out. Definitely one of those games that I perhaps would have not noticed previously, but due to the introduction of a new system, this is more than possible. What better way to enjoy those wonderful games but simply by strolling on a subscription fee and then trying out literally every one of those. Never ever did I have 75 games installed on my console previously, and presently I have 75. There's all sorts of games in there, from the kind of golden oldies like Splinter Cell trilogy, Assassin's Creed series, Fallout 3, 4 and 76, then Mass Effect trilogy, you know, as the wonderful, wonderful games going back in decades, as well as obviously Halo, not just the trilogy but the entire Master Chief Collection. Have lots of other quirky new unknown games as well as some of those demos, and I think the idea is to be introducing some of those to the channel. Basically, I'll try some of them in advance, then I'll introduce them to you, and then you can decide for yourselves. I find it to be very similar to what we have in our multiplex cinemas in the UK. We can get now from Odeon, which is a major multiplex chain, as well as Cineworld, that so-called unlimited access pass. And then once you become a member of the Cineworld or Odeon, you get this pass which costs you roughly about £20 a month, and you can go and see all the films that they're screening It's basically unlimited, as many times as you want, wherever you want in the UK and Ireland. So for instance, when I travel around the Isles, if I'm in Dublin or if I'm in Belfast, Glasgow, Edinburgh, Newcastle, Bristol, Cardiff, you name it, any other place, I can simply stroll in and use my pass without paying a penny. £20 a month. Also includes some of the best West End cinemas, like the one on Leicester Square called Empire, with two fantastic screens, one called Super Screen and the other obviously a wonderful IMAX. So that is an offer you can't refuse, and never ever have I watched many more films in my life but what I've done during the last decade. It's been incredible, really, and the number of films I've seen had been so great that sometimes it was hard for me to remember all I've seen, and therefore I had to get very quick notes after every single screening, because otherwise I would just simply forget. This was not possible before. This is the same system like the one we have on Xbox Game Pass and PS Now. It means that we can access anything we want. It's unlimited, and therefore try out even the games that we never heard of, and that really makes us like an archaeologist, having some really fantastic finds, discovering those street treasures and finding out about those games that are thoroughly enjoyable, but the games that did not receive enough publicity, and that itself is indeed very, very important for everyone who works so hard to produce them. And I find it also quite curious that within the film industry we already spot certain names, like the names of directors, the stars, screenwriters, the DOP, crews. But when it comes to video gaming, it's just very, very few people that are well known. There's massive big teams like the ones working for Ubisoft and Bungie, Bethesda, BioWare. You never hear the names. And if you were to venture out to some of those Twitter profiles of people who worked on games like let me think, Dragon Age or Mass Effect or Fallout 76, even Halo, you will see that once they are running their own personal profile, they do not have that many followers. They might have had some who picked up the names after the postings on the main Twitter profile, which is allocated for the game in question. But really, I find it quite interesting that people who work so hard get so little exposure in the mainstream press, and they absolutely and truly deserve it. So, anytime I have a chance, I will be doing exactly that. I'll, raise the glass in order to praise the quality of the work, think about the hard work that people accomplish with the games like The Last of Us 2 or Anthem or any other, be it a huge success or so-called failure. It's the amount of work that's put into the product with tender loving care, with attention, with that expectation that communities will pick up on the very best within the game. I also feel that degree of talent and hard work needs to be always cherished, recognized, and most importantly, respected. So this is what we are going to be doing here on my channel. This is all in a nutshell, in addition to our regular community-based sessions, which are there for our community members to come in, to talk, to discuss all the issues which are gaming industry related, as well as their own personal experience of certain games. We've had some wonderful reviews that were based on betas and new game releases. They included Anthem, they included several seasons of PUBG and Apex. We had a thorough review of Ghost Recon Breakpoint. We had a wonderful and very busy review of The Division 2, with many veterans and gamers popping in to say hello, express their views and share their thoughts about all that was happening right at the beginning, and the list goes on and on. So that is something that we will carry on with here on my channel. But most importantly, I want to tell you the major difference will be in the way the broadcasts are scheduled. Because previously I would have one slot of about 5 hours and everything was crammed in order to suffice. I think some of my members said that it's hard to find some of the content if they wanted to re-access, let's say, what we talked about that might have been related to the Last of Us 2 release. So, and then, looking at the dates and all that was very difficult. And having separate slots allocated, named and labeled, will definitely help that tremendously. To summarize, my main streams will be done in the afternoons, probably starting around 2 o'clock and around 5. The daily news bulletins will be delivered early in the day, around 10 o'clock. And then we'll have some sessions which are scheduled on the hub if our community members want to join us, if they want to participate in, let's say, a selection of robust strikes in Destiny 2, if they want to team up with PvP in PUBG or Apex. These months are going to be scheduled in order for them to be able to participate. So we'll have to keep an open mind, and therefore you will be needing to, follow some of my postings on Twitter, which always allocate specific slots and tell you exactly at what time the streams are going to be commencing. So that's all about my Season 3. Season 3 is about to commence on 1st of September, and until then, which is literally within the next 4 or 5 days, I will be providing you with some test streams, and this one is obviously part of that. We've had a wonderful weekend, and I played a lot of Overwatch, a game that has been offered as part of 3 days on Xbox, and it's the first time I played it. Incidentally, it's a bit strange, isn't it, considering I'm a huge Battle Royale fan, played all the other games consistently and over many months and years, and Overwatch for some reason didn't really come to my desk, and I guess the main reason compared to all the others is very, very simple. It did have that monetary gain attached to it. On one hand, one had to pay for the game right from the beginning compared to all the other Battle Royale that provided free of charge, and secondly, there was quite a lot of content that you also could purchase if you wanted to, which was slightly off-putting, and I think this was obviously of concern to other people who played PUBG or Apex. But I must tell you that playing it on the weekend was very enjoyable, and I find it to be absolutely superb on the audio-visual front. Everything worked perfectly, the graphics were as smooth as possible. We had lots of different matches against AI that I found also equally difficult if you were playing them on the hardest difficulty level. I have to say the AI enemies are very, very mighty and very precise. They can target you from any distance. Obviously they are machines and they know exactly where you are. So if you want to be training to be an expert in Overwatch or anything similar, well, I advise you to be cracking on first of all with a good selection of training sessions on the hardest difficulty level, and then jump in and play against all the other teams. There's quite a variety. What's exciting about the game is the number of characters you can choose from. It's a very great number, and they're all very lovable. They're beautifully designed, and each one of them will have special powers depending on your personal preference, whether you want to use the characters that look like a tank, that are very robust and very, very mighty and very effective in close quarter combat, or you want to be using those that are skilled in the use of snipers, long distance shots, or perhaps to a degree stealthier gameplay, which is difficult in that kind of environment. You have plenty to choose from. So that was a lot of fun doing Overwatch. Most highly recommend it to everyone, and also it was offered on a greatly discounted price during this weekend. But we are coming now to the very basic part of our session today, the Marvel Avengers beta, the game I also played literally for the whole weekend, and I must admit I went in with slight hesitation, thinking perhaps I'll find it similar to all the other Marvel games I've played, but it needs to be said that in certainly recent months, in the last 2 years, anything coming from Marvel on the kind of video gaming front has been nothing short but stellar. And I have to say that the Spider-Man game offered through PlayStation was excellent, and it was greatly enjoyable, but this one is another step up, and I'll explain very briefly as to why that is. I think first of all we want to be looking at some ins and outs of the game, all that this game is providing us with, and we'll have a look at all that is still to be expected, because at the end of the day it's just a beta. What I like about the current Marvel engagement with video gaming is that they're trying to make games that are on one hand very closely aligned to films and comic strip heroes that we're obviously used to, and they're really paying a lot of attention to every part of the story. So those campaigns are well researched and well delivered, with lots of activities and very interesting plots, which are never boring, always connecting with another chapter and making sure we are thoroughly entertained as long as we are playing those games. This beta for me was probably one of the most entertaining I've ever played. The reason for that is very simple. It starts with a lot of massive activity at the beginning of this game, where you can really try every single character, every one of these Avengers at the beginning, and you can try out some of the special skills, the way they behave, the movements, and the overall activity. You can pick up some goodies and modify the characters, enhance the abilities, and then you will start with a campaign through which you are entertaining Hulk and the new character as well. I'll tell you a bit more about her in a moment. And you really get to know what the combat is going to be like, and the RPG elements, and what story is going to be like. Everything is there at your fingertips, and I have to say it plays really smoothly. It's very enjoyable, it's quite funny, feels hectic at times, and overall the activity is, I guess, bridging the gap between the two worlds. I think these video games are in fact bringing three various medias together. We have graphic novels where they were conceived, then we have films where they're featured, and now we have video games where they are prominently basing the activities on various degrees of interactivity amongst each other, as well as obviously with the gamer who is doing them right from the beginning. So very, very impressive indeed. But I'll tell you a bit more about Avengers. We call it the Marvel Avengers, but actually the proper name of the game is just simply Avengers 2020, and this is an upcoming action-adventure video game developed by Crystal Dynamics, and it's published by one of our favorite publishers, Square Enix. Anyone who is familiar with Final Fantasy will tell you Square Enix is definitely their bread and butter. Based on the Marvel comic superhero team of the Avengers, this game is inspired by the long-running comic book mythology and also adaptations in other media. The game's main storyline takes place 5 years after A-Day, a celebratory day for the Avengers, wherein a tragedy resulted in death and destruction, and the Avengers were blamed. The team is forced to reassemble to save the world from peril in the form of AIM, led by George Dalton, MODOK, which threatens ending the world from superpowers. Right at the beginning of the game, you have some characters that are representing this beastly enemy, and I have to say they appear to be very mighty, very, very hard to fight against, and you have a lot of fun when you're grappling with them in the air and trying to really to neutralize them. And there's quite a versatility of different weapons and different skills, and what really impressed me was that the game was displaying the elements of all sorts of other games I played in the last year. So you have the elements of Ghost Recon or The Division, fully customizable characters, loads of different things which you can collect, modding them in every way imaginable, increasing the skills, increasing the abilities, just absolutely tremendous. On the other hand, you had a really good story, you had a lot of open world activity, you had plenty of collectibles, so everything was there, really. So we have also gameplay in here which is presented from a third-person perspective, and it can be playable in both single player and multiplayer. I've not tried the multiplayer, I've just done single player. I'm not sure whether multiplayer was accessible on beta, I don't think it was, but single player missions were very, very entertaining. And it says that the game also will feature an online co-op mode, allowing players to assemble a team of heroes of their own, so obviously with your friends. And the initial playable characters are Steve Rogers, obviously he's Captain America, Tony Stark, known as Iron Man, Bruce Banner, Hulk, Thor, Natasha Romanoff, our favourite Black Widow, and the new character, Kamala Khan, Mrs. Marvel, and she was tremendous. We played her quite a bit in the latter section of this beta. I found it to be very, very good. Plenty of skills, and I particularly like that massive big hand that flies about and destroys all the enemies, inclusive of drones and robots, and it just seemed like a really, really interesting character, well developed, well researched, and most importantly, very well executed. So they said that in addition to Mrs. Marvel, there'll be some other characters available to players post-launch as free updates, which also includes new regions will be accessible to further exploration. Each hero possesses a variety of costume customization features, as well as the capacity to upgrade their powers and abilities using a major skill tree. So, depending on what character you like, you may like Natasha Romanoff, Black Widow, if you want to play stealthily, or you may want to take Hulk, who is like a tank. It all depends on what you like doing the best, but they're fully customizable, loads of different things you can do on the skills tree, and plenty of things to collect. I was just in this beta collecting everything at all times, and it was very easy to use. You were able to see exactly what was to be accessed, what had to be clicked, what special loot had to be enabled, and also I quite like that if you were busy and you didn't want to be looking at every single piece of your kit, you had a button in there which you pressed to upgrade everything that you have to the highest quality gear, and that really helped, because certainly in the first part of this beta the activity was absolutely frantic and relentless. We really were sweating it out, and I was a bit dizzy, must admit, after the major fight right at the beginning, which in fact we did not win in full, as you will see once you get the game. Beta is no longer playable, sadly. It's just that it was delivered for that weekend, but certainly the weekend seemed too short to complete everything that was on offer. And the game will be released on Stadia, Microsoft Windows, PlayStation 4 and Xbox One on the 4th of September, so we still have to wait, what is it? Let me see. Just about a week to go, I think. And they also will release the game on PS5 and Xbox Series X. Once the consoles are launched, they'll be upgraded to the next gen, obviously, and both PS4 and Xbox One players will be able to upgrade to the next gen version for free. It's a called Smart Delivery on Xbox, which has been well advertised. So let's think a bit about gameplay. We have Marvel's Avengers, which is a third-person shooter action-adventure game that combines an original cinematic story with single-player and cooperative gameplay. The game can be played offline as a single-player experience or online with up to 4 people during certain aspects of the game. So that's really very good compared to maybe games like Anthem or Destiny, where you got to be online. You'll see sometimes that some gamers prefer not to be online and they want to be doing it off the hard drive, and this game is going to be providing plenty of activity for them. The game also features customization options, inclusive of abilities and costumes, and those can be upgraded using a skill tree. Costumes have been sourced from all corners of the Marvel Universe and can be earned in-game or bought separately as DLCs. Players will also be able to receive free updates containing new regions and new characters. Well, that was very visible in the beta, I have to admit. Some sections we could not fully use due to the fact that this was not a fully developed game. I should say, this was not a full game, it's fully developed already. But it seemed that there is going to be plenty on offer. And like I said earlier, I like that they really perfectly combined all three worlds, the world of graphic novels, films and video gaming. They all seem to be gelling perfectly. Also on the visual front, it's almost like a real life experience. The graphics are incredibly sharp and well developed and all the characters are wonderfully designed. And I wonder how this is going to work with the costumes, whether all of those will come through the in-game currency, or whether people will be monetizing on. I don't really know. We'll have to see. But it seemed very versatile and definitely, for me, thoroughly enjoyable. I like the fact that I felt immediately as if I was part of all three worlds at once, and that's quite rare. I think I didn't feel that whilst I was playing Batman games, for instance, although I really liked the story and the way they were done. But in here, I think they are slightly raising the bar for the standards, and I think we felt that with Spider-Man initially, and I think this is yet another step in the right direction. So who are the characters? I mean, everyone probably watched and read Avengers. You must have seen one of the films, and you probably remembered some of them. But if you're not familiar, I'll tell you who these characters are, because they have a roster of characters, and all of them are drawn from the overall Marvel universe. Marvel has been around for many years, and graphic novels are being released on a weekly basis. So you have lots of different characters from different parts of the universe, and in this film we have quite a few of them assembled. So the initial set of playable characters will be of Steve Rogers, he's Captain America, played by Jeff Shine, and then we have Tony Stark, Iron Man, played by Nolan North, Bruce Banner, Hulk, played by Troy Baker and Darren DePaul, Thor, Travis Willingham, Natasha Romanoff, Black Widow, Laura Bailey. Shame that Laura Bailey is there instead of Scarlett Johansson. I personally would have preferred Johansson because I really like her in these films. There must have been some sort of contractual issues in there, and Laura Bailey is absolutely phenomenal in all that she delivers. As we could see during the first section of the beta, she's fighting it out in there, tooth and nail, and you could see that some of her abilities are very, very formidable. And also we have Kamala Khan, Miss Marvel, I should say, and that is Sandra Sod. Following the game's initial release, more superheroes will be made available for free to players, and these will include Clint Barton, Hawkeye, then Peter Parker, obviously our beloved Spider-Man, the latter of whom is exclusive to the PlayStation versions. So that is interesting. This will make people buy the game for both platforms. It is not going to be cross-platform initially, and I think this may be one of those ways to which certain developers will try to attract more gamers to either of the platforms by offering those new characters. We've heard some stories about other games as well, but this is the big one that indeed has been already confirmed. So if you want to play on PS4, you'll get your Peter Parker and Clint Barton as your exclusive characters right at the beginning. Maybe at a later stage they'll become present everywhere, I don't know. Certainly it does feel a bit unfair, doesn't it, if you're playing Spider-Man on PlayStation and he's not present on Xbox, but there's going to be a way through which this will be resolved. Crystal Dynamics studio head Scott Amos started the exclusivity of Spider-Man, and he said he came from Marvel and Sony's existing partnership, and clarified that this was the only character to be console exclusive at the beginning, I want to stress. The game supporting characters also include Hank Pym, Phil Sheldon, and Monica Rappaccini, and we have also Nick Fury, Maria Hill, Dum Dum Dugan, and Cerise. So plenty of characters in there to enjoy during the game. The Avengers and the Allies will be coming into conflict with several supervillains, and amongst those are George Dalton, MODOK, and he's played by Osman Ali, and then Emil Blonsky, Abomination, and Tony Masters, Taskmaster. So what's the story going to be like in here? Let's have a look at the plot a bit. It seemed very, very well told right from the beginning. It was blending in very well with those recent non-Avengers films. It just felt almost like an extension of one of them, and I thought this was its major strength. And we hear that the story begins on A-Day, where 5 of the founding members of the Avengers, that's Captain America, Iron Man, Thor, Black Widow, and Hulk, are celebrating the unveiling of a second headquarters in San Francisco, inclusive of the reveal of their own helicarrier, the Chimera, I should say, powered by a Terrigen crystal. So the ceremony soon goes Ori when a terrorist attack led by Taskmaster results in the Golden Gate Bridge and most of the city being destroyed, and then Captain America's apparent death. In addition, the destruction of the Terrigen crystal has caused the spread of Terrigen mist, which turns countless regular people into superpowered beings known as Inhumans. That's the work of the enemy. Blamed for the tragedy, the Avengers disband. Then we see in this beta as well, 5 years later, the rebuilt San Francisco is now under the control of a science-based organization called AIM, and that's led by George Dalton and superheroes, including those who were members of the Avengers, and these are by now outlawed. With the world in peril once more, teenager and Inhuman Kamala Khan uncovers both the new superpowers and a shocking conspiracy regarding AIM. She embarks on a quest to reassemble Earth's mightiest heroes and then uncover the true culprit behind the A-Day incident. The beginning of that is present in beta. We've done an incursion when she went with Hulk into that major military base where some of the secrets were being held, and there's quite a lot of activity that you need to complete before you get in, and there was a slight glitch in there when Hulk was to be jumping through the main gate in order to get in. For whatever reason I had to restart the beta because I couldn't really, for whatever reason, jump correctly or grab the ledge, and had some difficulties when that happened to me. But I realized, usually when something like this happens in beta, I assume it's a glitch and I just reboot, frequently gets resolved, and that was the case. But once I got in, everything was hunky-dory. And but the release is on the 4th of September, as I said, and we had a teaser trailer which was released on Marvel Entertainment's YouTube channel in January of 2017, so that's 3 years ago, and they told us about the work that was being planned. The game was under the working title The Avengers Project, and 2 years later at E3 2019, Square Enix were hosting a press conference that shared more details of the game. That included a full trailer and its release date. So the 14-minute presentation showcased a trailer made from in-game footage. A playable demo was beg your pardon, I got lost in my thoughts. We've had a trailer made from in-game footage and then a brief description of the gameplay that included characters, multiplayer and customization, and a preview of the actors behind the game. A playable demo was available to show floor attendees behind closed doors, so it was a bit of a, for the VIP, so to speak. A closed beta was available to those who pre-ordered the game, and that was kicking off on the 7th of August and was offered for 3 days until the 9th. This was on PlayStation 4. The closed beta came to Xbox One and Microsoft Windows from 14th to 16th of August, and then an open beta for PS4 users also being available during the same weekend. The final open beta was offered between 21st and 23rd of August. That's the time where I played it, for all launch platforms apart from Stadia. So that would have been PC, Xbox and PlayStation. Marvel's Avengers was originally set to release on Stadia, PS4, Xbox One and Windows on May the 15th of this year, but it has since been pushed back to 4th of September in order to adjust and polish the game. The game will be also released in 4 editions, standard one, then an exclusive digital edition, and that's going to be only for PS4, a deluxe edition, and an Earth's Mightiest edition, with the latter 3 editions being playable from 1st of September. Quite curious to see what the Earth's Mightiest edition will actually contain, whether there will be some statues or collectibles offered together with it, like some artwork or any collectible bits related to the gameplay. It'll be very interesting to see, so I look forward to that. And the game is also set to be released as a launch title for the Xbox Series X in November 2020 and for the PS5 in Q4 of 2020. So obviously we'll have that uplift in there. And then we have some tie-in media and merchandise, and let's see what those ones are. So we have tie-in books, we have Marvel's Avengers Road to A-Day, and then further merchandise. And I'm really a great collector of various bits that come together with special editions. In fact, recently I went to a local PC store, and there's a chap who works there, and he's an avid graphic novels stroke video games collector, and basically he had been collecting only the top tier special editions. So we talked about those ones he collected. Amongst those there were several that were done by Epic and Gears of War, and he told me how he assembled the whole selection of handmade statues of Marcus Phoenix, Dom and all the others, and that's quite extraordinary. Just think about your desk and you have all the statues in there, each one of them will have a serial number, and he managed to get them on eBay, in fact, and didn't pay the full price. But that is the kind of thing that I'm after when it comes to serious collections. Really very, very collectible, very interesting, and indeed particularly entertaining if it is linked to your favorite game. And you will know that my favorite game is, well, one of my favorite games is Mass Effect Trilogy. So not quite certain whether they had released something as prestigious and prodigious as the guys in Epic, but certainly with their remaster, which is likely to be released within the next 2 months, I'm looking forward to these kinds of editions. So the guys from Marvel had no problems in conceiving some excellent, unusual, collectible merchandise. And to start with, they published 5 tie-in prequel comics for the game in a collection called Marvel's Avengers Road to A-Day. So each comic focuses on one of the 5 playable characters available at launch. They include Mrs. Marvel. The first comic is to be released was Marvel's Avengers Iron Man on 11th of December 2019, then followed by Marvel's Avengers Thor #1 on 8th of January. And then we had Marvel's Avengers Hulk 1 on the 5th of February this year, Marvel Avengers Captain America 1 on 18th of March 2020, and then concluding with Marvel's Avengers Black Widow 1 on the 25th of March 2020. What is particularly enjoyable in the beta, and that obviously will be featuring the game, is that you're collecting these comics during the game, and I think eventually you'll be able to read some of them as part of the game, and they will give you some extra kudos, some thumbs up and brownie points. So that's really wonderful. It's an ideal way of bringing in the world of graphic novels into this environment, and I really applaud Marvel and the developer for doing it. I really enjoyed it, and they looked very prominent. I did see them straight away when collected, and they sort of popped up, and they looked obviously very highly illuminating. So then they released Time Books, and that is a selection that's been published by Titan Books. I love the publisher. I have lots of their graphic novels, Dragon Empire and Dan Dare being some of my favorites. And they will publish 2 tie-in books for the game, and the first one is going to be called Marvel Avengers The Extinction Key, and this one will be released on the 1st of September, so that's in a couple of days. The Extinction Key, which was written by best-selling author Greg Keyes, is a prequel, and it's focused on the events that take place prior to the A-Day. So when you read the comic book, you'll find out what happened before the very beginning of this game, and also it will set the game's events in motion. So you can see there's been a lot of thought put into the whole process. The novel follows the Avengers as they try to prevent an ancient organization called the Zodiac from acquiring an infinitely powerful weapon capable of warping the very fabric of time and space, and that weapon is called the Zodiac Key. So the Extinction Key also introduces the game's versions of Doctor Strange and Brother Voodoo, as well as specific members of S.H.I.E.L.D. The second book, Marvel's Avengers The Art of the Game, will also be released on 1st of September, and also contains concept art, storyboards, and also it provides us with storyboards and artist commentary, an intimate study of the Avengers, plus a detailed view at the different environments and missions in the game. So that looks really wonderful, and that is in addition to what we heard earlier, and that was the selection of 5 tie-in prequel comics. So I have those 2 tie-in books, and then there is some further merchandise. Funko released a set of pop vinyl figures based on the playable characters in the game that are also available at launch, so that means next week, in addition to a figure based on Taskmaster. Black Widow received a Chase variant, which is a glow-in-the-dark version of the standard figure, but with the stock of this variant being less than that of the standard appearance, I believe that that will turn out to be highly collectible. Captain America, Thor, Iron Man and Hulk also received alternate designs exclusive to certain retailers, with the first 2 being glow-in-the-dark variants. So think about it, if you had those figures that would be glowing in the dark, it's really, really exciting. The designs for the characters were also loosely adapted for Lego Marvel Avengers sets released in 2020, though it's unclear if the events depicted are from the game itself. So as you could see, there is plenty to come together with the game, depending on what edition you will be purchasing. As said, it will be released on all platforms, with 2 characters being exclusive just to PlayStation. I think overall summary of the game for me was huge entertainment and massive enjoyment. The beta, particularly the first section, was extremely hectic. There were so many different activities for us to complete. First of all, we had to protect our base. Secondly, we had to destroy all the enemies. The boss that popped up towards the end was very, very hard to defeat, and several characters were kind of grappling with him in the air. I'm not quite certain that we utterly destroyed him right at the end, although he looked pretty well dead. But you know, he's likely to be remerging later in the full game, of course, and is just very, very busy. A very, very good way for anyone who is going to be enjoying the game from the day one to learn some of the tips and tricks, a bit like an extended tutorial, because during the first hour, I think, of the gameplay, we were able to try every one of the characters, and each one was significantly different with his abilities, and all of those will be enhanced as you carry on, because there's that skill tree. Then you will have collectibles, then you will have mods, you will have all kinds of things that you will be picking up and getting through the game. I think that's really so important and makes it distinctly different from some of the other games that were based on graphic novels, because I really think they spent a lot of time looking at the in-game mechanics of the games like The Division, Elder Scrolls, Anthem, you name it, Fallout 76, Destiny, and they tried to make this world very similar in terms of its content and activities, so that you will never be bored. You can replay the game on a different character, you can do it together with your friends, and you will be excelling because your characters are a bit stronger, you have better skills tree. But believe you me, it will not happen automatically, it will not happen easy. There will be many hours spent as you carry on with your character in order to make him somewhat more mighty. The other thing I quite liked was as we progressed towards the campaign, once we went down the road towards that archival city military base where the secrets were hidden, it did remind me a bit of God of War. I walked together, I was playing the Miss Marvel character together with Hulk, and it just seemed like a really good exploratory open world game. You really looked for a way in, you looked for some paths that were semi-hidden, you looked for some collectibles. It was like an exploratory RPG in addition to the actual fighting sequences once you got into the base, and I really liked that as well. So the world seemed big, and I'm not sure whether the intention is similar to what we have in Destiny, but considering they call it Avengers, not like Avengers 2, 3, 4, it could also be that this world may well be the Avengers world that our friends from around the world will be able to enjoy and engage with for many years and months to come, if it is being expanded on. So if it is made into a multiplayer that constantly has seasonal content thrown in, I guess remains to be seen. But I think the options and the opportunities in there are certainly visible, and I personally have been very, very pleased with all the activities that I managed to complete. I didn't manage to go through the final after I've done the campaign, and it was a bit like several strikes, and the strikes were there in order for you to explore, I think, some different environments. I completed one of them, but there were about 3 lots on either of the sides, and unfortunately the beta was about to end by the time I got there. I didn't play beta literally back to back through the weekend, and therefore I was, I guess, a bit late. But in addition to this, it needs to be said that beta was beautifully construed and delivered. There were hardly any technical issues in there. It was the best possible way through which people can be introduced to the game and to all that is to follow. So I was very pleased. I most highly recommend Marvel Avengers to everyone. So if you're interested, you can choose one of those special editions. We were looking at the standard edition, an exclusive digital edition, and then a deluxe edition, and obviously the mightiest is an Earth's Mightiest edition, with the latter 3 editions being playable from 1st of September. So anyone who really wants to be excelling, consider some of those, because they'll provide you with lots of extra goodies. I've not heard anything about so-called seasonal content, but it may well be that some of the Prime editions will have some of it, and all the characters are fully customizable, so I think it's likely that you'll get lots of cosmetics that will be brought in various packs. But generally, what I enjoyed the best was the actual gameplay. It just felt this beta and consequently the game were merging the 3 worlds together: the world of graphic novels, the world of film, and the world of video gaming in the best possible format. I can't think of any other game of the same type that would have really merged the 3 together so eloquently, so professionally, and with the same degree of enjoyment and entertainment. So most highly recommended, and I certainly hope that lots of you will be purchasing the game, pre-ordering it, preloading, making sure that on the 1st, if you purchase special editions, or indeed on the 4th, if you got one of the standard ones, you'll be able to crack on without any difficulty. So we've come to the end of our Marvel Avengers review. I'm very sad to see that we did not have many participants, and not exactly sure why that is. It's possible that our stream is not going through the main channel in there for the Avengers, because beta already had expired the end of Sunday, but we'll carry on with our regular reviews from today. And as I said earlier, my Season 3, which will be commencing as from 1st of September, will have lots of reviews, and those will be dedicated to betas as well as to freebies and demos, and the new releases of course as well. In addition to that, the Season 3 will have a different structure here on the channel. We'll have shorter streams that will be kind of dedicated to a particular subject. Today we'll start with our bulletin of industry news, and later in the day we'll have our streams dedicated to all other activities, and they'll combine some live on-screen gameplay with some reviews as well as our community participation, and I really look forward to that. Hope you guys enjoyed our comeback today. We've had 2 broadcasts already. One was dedicated to my Season 3, and I explained exactly what I will be doing, talked a bit about my recent gaming activities as well, and then this one that was indeed dedicated to this wonderful new game coming from Square Enix called Marvel Avengers. So thank you for coming, thank you for watching, thank you for listening, thank you for supporting this channel and our community, and indeed I hope to see you again as we carry on with other broadcasts dedicated to many of that wonderful video games that are presently released. On that note, I will thank you all for coming, thank you for watching and supporting this channel. Wish you all a very successful, very peaceful, very good night.